Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be talking about our updated top 24 linebacker rankings with tiers, including rookies.
Hike!
All right, Joe. So why don't you start us off? I know this is a little bit different for us, but since the previous episode, we've been kind of doing things in reverse. Who do you got in tier number one?
All right, in tier one, at number one, I've got Roquan Smith. And at number two, I've got Foye Oluokun.
I think this might be the first time in all our ranking and tiers that you and I have exactly the same. Roquan Smith, number one. Foye Oluokun, number two. So what made you just have these two guys in your tier? Because in my view, I think Roquan's, we'll start with Roquan. I think he's clearly the number one guy. I know Foye's had maybe more tackle success, and he did have that extension, which helps him. But with Roquan, it'll be interesting to see how he does now that Patrick Queen's no longer there. But he's got the youth. He's younger. He's just honestly been a dominant player ever since he stepped into the league.
Yeah, he really has. And, Baltimore's he's just been a great fit with the Baltimore's defense and, being able to go on blitzes and everything else. And I feel like that's added an extra dimension to his game. But, this was a change because I had additional guys in my top tier previously. But I really just, after thinking about it, I just was like, these two guys have just been so dominant and a cut above. I just couldn't put those other guys in there. I just felt like I wasn't doing them justice by having additional players in tier one.
Do you think that Foye will continue on this pace? Because his pace, some would probably have Foye one. And I wouldn't say that you're wrong if you did, because what he has done across two teams, by the way, right? He did what he did in Atlanta. He's continued, if not done better in Jacksonville. I thought for sure when Jacksonville gave him all that money, it's like, oh boy, he's going to Siberia. We'll see. We've seen the last of Foye Oluokun, but he's defied the odds, and the Jacksonville big free agency signing is not haunting them.
Yeah, I don't know. As far as his pace, I feel like we've almost been doubting his pace the last couple of years, and he's just been continuing. So to this point, until we actually see a slowdown, I don't know why this guy couldn't keep doing what he's doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. So let's see who you got in tier number two.
All right, in tier number two, at number three, I've got Ernest Jones. At number four, I've got Nick Bolton. At number five, I've got Fred Warner. 6, Zaire Franklin. 7, Bobby Okereke. And 8, Patrick Queen.
Okay. So at number three, I've got Zaire Franklin. Number 4, Fred Warner. Number 5, Nick Bolton. Number 6, Terrel Bernard. And 7, Ernest Jones. It's interesting because I can remember, I think it might have been our first rookie draft ever in our salary cap Dynasty League, or it was maybe our second year, but I remember it being at your house, and I wanted Ernest Jones so bad, and you sniped him from me. And that, at first he wasn't all that good, but he's really turned it on of late. Obviously, you're very high on him. I have him in this tier, but not as high as you do. Are you concerned at all as far as him only having 1 year left on his contract? I think linebackers are a difficult position to judge because all of a sudden, as you know, linebackers can just hit a cliff and all of a sudden they're gone. So it's like, yes, he's doing well now. He's going to be doing well with the Rams. But are you all that concerned that we don't know what next year and beyond holds for him?
I mean, that could be concerning, but I feel like at some point all these guys' contracts come to an end. But I would be concerned for him. I think if he were to change teams, my hope would be that the Rams find a way to, keep him on the team just because of the success that he has had with the Rams and, with their defensive system and everything like that. Obviously we've seen guys change teams before due to their contract situations, and then it just doesn't pan out at the new place. I know, the Foye and stuff, like we mentioned, is a different animal, but would be interesting to just see if he did change teams, if we saw the same type of player, or if another team would put him in that same role that he's flourished in.
See, I was very intentional about who I put in this tier, and with that in mind, because that spooks me personally. I still have Ernest Jones here. I have him number 7 because I
Right.
think that his play on the field has been so good that even if he doesn't get signed with the Rams, he'll get signed somewhere. Because sometimes with IDP, especially in linebacker tackle heavy leagues, people are just looking at guys who get a ton of tackles. They'll say, like, oh, Alex Singleton, for example, for the Broncos. Oh, he's great. Well, you and I both know he's a tackling machine, but it doesn't mean that he's the best linebacker in football.
Right.
So that's my concern with Ernest Jones. And that's why a part of the reason why I have the guys I have in this tier. Franklin got a contract extension. Fred Warner's got a long-term contract. Nick Bolton, I believe, has 2 years left on his rookie deal. Terrel Bernard has 2 years left on his rookie deal. So all these guys we know for the foreseeable future, and they're young, so beyond they could get they could sign. I know you were a little bit surprised by Bernard. I'm assuming you have him in your top 24.
Yes. Yep. He is just
Okay.
not as. I just don't have him as high as you do.
Yeah, I just think that what we saw from him was honestly borderline elite. What we saw from the linebacker position. I mean, he probably could have been a league winner for some until he got injured towards the end of the year. But I think that he's a type of player that I think he's going to take over for Milano. Milano has kind of been that guy. I think that Bernard is honestly he's overtaken him, and so I really like what Bernard showed last year. I think he's only going to get better.
Yeah. I mean, he was impressive. Well, curious to see how he keeps it going if he does actually get better. But I guess at least for this year, are you worried that Milano's gonna kind of eat into his tackle numbers, or?
No, because I think Bernard did really well even when Milano was there. I know he kind of took off, but Milano's coming back from a pretty, I think somewhat serious injury. It was a broken leg, I believe. So I just people want to say like, oh well, it's not that bad, but I mean, look at Tony Pollard last year. He did not look like the same.
Yeah, right.
I know it's a different position, but I think they're going to ease him in. Plus, Bills have playoff aspirations, so they're not going to. I could see Bernard getting. They may sub him out. They may sub Milano out. To be honest with you, he may not be playing 100% of the snaps like he's used to doing.
Yeah, that is fair. I mean, he is older. Obviously, he's had several different injuries. I'm sure the Bills would love to kind of keep the longevity over the course of the season, so they potentially could have him if they are able to make the playoffs.
Are you enjoying this episode right now? Well, if you are, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, or go ahead and follow us over at Spotify and Apple under the podcast name, The Salary Cap Show. If you're interested in any trade requests, head over to our X, where we have a trade inquiry form where you can fill out and give us all the details you need to help us give you the best advice to make those moves. All right, Joe, so who do you got in tier number 3?
All right, and tier number 3 at number 9, Quincy Williams. At 10, Frankie Louvu. 11, Azeez Al-Shaair. 12, Logan Wilson. 13, Jack Campbell. And 14, Terrel Bernard.
Oh my, big tier. And number 8, I've got Bobby Okereke. Number 9, I've got linebacker TJ Edwards. 10, Azeez Al-Shaair. 11, Devin Lloyd. 12, Patrick Queen. And 13, Quay Walker. So we both ended up having 6 linebackers in this tier. I'm a little surprised of some of the names I have that you have not said yet, but I guess you could say the same for me. First off, let's talk about a guy in Azeez Al-Shaair, guy who I didn't even have my top 24, believe it or not, which is a big L on my part. But I think for me, the big thing was people were saying, actual NFL scouting type people would say Al-Shaair wasn't really the best as far as a linebacker. He did well from a fantasy perspective. So I was very curious because he signed a prove-it deal over with the, obviously he's with the Titans. So I was like, what's going to happen with him? When he got that contract extension, or sorry, not contract extension, but a signing with the Houston Texans, I thought that was huge. I mean, that completely skyrocketed his value. And, spoiler alert, I actually knocked Christian Harris out of my top 24 as a result. I think he's been good, but I thought that Harris was going to be this guy who was going to really ascend forward. I always liked Al-Shaair. Now him going in Houston, I love it for him. I thought he was well deserving. So he had a huge bump, and you and I mean, I actually have him higher than you, but you and I are pretty spot on as far as the values we looks like we're both believing.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, I mean, I like this guy when he was with St. Fran, then of course he goes over to Tennessee, does well. And like you said, now that he's with Houston, he's got another opportunity, and he's not just got that 1-year deal. I definitely, brought up his value for sure.
Now I do see that we did a little role reversal here. I had Jack Campbell pretty high last time. I want to say I had him like 15 or 14. You'll see where I have him a little bit later. But I don't know if you had him in your top 24. You skyrocketed him up the board to 13. What changed?
Yeah, I don't know if I think I might have left him out the first time.
I think you did.
Yeah, which I, thought it was not a good thing on my part. I mean, this guy's young, had the draft capital at the Lions. I think he's able to, saw him start to improve and get more playing time at the end of the year. I think this carries into his second season, and I think he's going to have a much better, more productive year.
Why such a jump, though? I mean, you could have had him in your tier 5 or tier 4. Why do you feel he jumped up to tier 3? You just feel, I mean, you and I both liked him coming out of the draft. I think we just were very underwhelmed by his rookie year.
Yeah, underwhelmed, and I think I was just putting too much stock into Anzalone there and
Yeah,
other
you
guys.
Definitely were.
So other guys added linebackers and
Rodrigo.
Right. Which he turned out to just be the 1 year on Hard Knocks, and it wasn't much of a factor last year. So I was putting a lot of factors into those things, and just felt like it wasn't fair. So given his age and everything like that, and where I think his ceiling could be, I think he deserves to be in here.
One other guy I want to talk about here in this tier for you, or for me really, is I had Patrick Queen in tier 3 at 12. You had him in tier 2 at 8. I like Patrick Queen. I'm a little nervous about what it will look like with him with Pittsburgh versus Baltimore. He was somewhat of a bust, we thought, and then all of a sudden he kind of took, had a career year in a contract year. He balled out so he can cash out. Now it looks like he's going to have the green dot in Pittsburgh, which is going to be very good for him. And I could see maybe that's why you have him. And he is a younger guy coming out of LSU. I mean, he's a great talent. So I think I'm not as bullish as you are. I think he could be good, but I don't think it's a slam dunk that he will be. This indicates that you think he's only going to get better with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, because I mean, like you said, he's going to have the green dot. I think he's actually got a greater opportunity because he was playing along Roquan Smith. He still had a great year, but I mean, he was really the shadow of Roquan Smith. We know he was the dominant guy on that defense. So now, Pittsburgh's been, desperately needing like a great linebacker play for a little bit here. And they went out and got Patrick Queen. Like you said, he's going to have the green dot. He's going to have every opportunity there to, really have a good year and get a ton of tackles in this defense.
All right, Joe. So why don't we head over to tier number 4? Who do you got there?
All right. And tier 4. So at 15, I've got Junior Colson. 16, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. 17, Quay Walker. 18, Tremaine Edmunds. And 19, Devin Lloyd.
Okay. So at 14, I have Junior Colson. 15, Quincy Williams. 16, Frankie Louvu. 17, Jordyn Brooks. And 18, Devin White. I got to be honest with you. When I was doing these rankings, I had Junior Colson very high. And I know you're a Michigan guy, so I know you like Junior Colson as well. But I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh boy, like, we'll see. I could be way higher than Joe on this, but actually you and I are pretty spot on. I mean, we're only one spot away. We both see him in this top of tier 4. What brought you to put him in this group?
Yeah, I mean, so Junior Colson, obviously he's played very well at Michigan, and now he went to the perfect spot. I mean, he gets to keep playing with Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator who is at Michigan. And, Kendricks is no longer there in LA. So he's coming into a great position to be able to start. I'm assuming Junior Colson will probably be the green dot guy as well. So he's got a great opportunity right out of the gates for a rookie. So that's kind of why I got him here.
Honestly, thinking about it, could he have went to any other like better landing spot? Like I think the Chargers was the best landing spot he could have possibly went to.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, Seattle, because Mike McDonald's there, same style of defense, the same
Sure,
idea.
I could see
McDonald,
that.
but outside of that, no.
Well, yeah. I mean, Seattle probably be a good second. I just think that who do they have? Deion Henley. That's a former regime pick, right?
Right.
GM Tom Telesco gone. Head coach gone. So to me, it's like he's gonna have to prove himself. And then they've got Denzel Perryman, who's a journeyman. So
Right.
they don't really have a bona fide starter stud. He's going to be the guy. I mean, I think I'm super excited about this guy. You saw him. I selected him in our rookie draft here recently. I really think this guy could be very talented. I would not be surprised if, based on what we see from him, that he jumps into that tier 3 conversation next season.
Yeah, that definitely is a possibility. And you mentioned Colson should be a 3-down linebacker. Perriman really is best when he's able to play downhill and stop the run. He's not really the 3-down type. So, Colson should be on the field a lot as a rookie.
Yeah, watch out. 2025, like I said, I think next year, after this current season, I think he could jump up here. Let's talk about Devin Lloyd here. You have him at 19. I have him at 11. So you and I are quite different on Devin Lloyd, which I find kind of surprising because, he is a younger guy and he's played good. He hasn't been great. Do you think he's just a name at this point? And you felt like after looking at the numbers, because actually, I mean, even for me, when I looked at the numbers, I'm like, okay, they haven't been as impressive as I thought. But what brought you down to this tier? I'm a little surprised how low you have him.
Yeah, no, I figured you did, and would be surprised. I mean, I think we both had him a lot higher the first time, but like you said, I feel like his name factor and the buzz of him coming out as a rookie, he's supposed to be kind of, one of those next guys at the linebacker position, and he really has been underwhelming. And just taking a look at it, I know, this past year in our league, he was in scoring, he was the linebacker 26. So and looking at things, and the fact that,
Foye.
Foye is still going to be there. He's going to stay there. I feel like that almost caps him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I mean, he was a former first-round pick. Yeah, the Jaguars traded up to go get him. You just don't see a lot of first-round off-ball linebackers and
Right.
he's played well. He's played well. I mean, he hasn't been elite by any means, but he's played well. So I just am a little surprised that you have him this low. But you're not wrong. I mean, he's not been fantastic. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I just felt like I felt like his youth and everything was just getting factored too much, and some of these other guys have been more productive, or guys that I believe have potentially a little more ceiling to them than Lloyd at this point.
So one other guy I'm a little bit surprised about that you have here is Quay Walker. Now, Quay Walker is an interesting one because I've heard, and maybe because I don't watch the Packers all that closely, it seems like there's mixed reports on this guy. He's a very athletic guy. He's a very emotional player, which I think has caused him to be ejected a few times. But it almost people seem to indicate that they think that Quay Walker is like not good. A lot of the Packers faithful and some of the IDP people I've seen saying like, well, they believe Adrian Cooper will probably take things over. I think he's played pretty well considering, and he is a younger guy. What brought you to bring him down to this tier?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have him too much lower than you, just 4 spots. I know it's in a lower tier, but I just feel like I hadn't seen enough from him. I know he's a young player and got a chance, with Devondre Campbell moving on from the Packers. They did get Edgerrin Cooper though. honestly, I feel like there's similar type players as well. So that's kind of, I just felt like I couldn't put Quay Walker higher.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's only one tier. It doesn't seem all that much different. I'm assuming. Well, we'll see. I'm assuming you have Devin White in tier 5.
No.
Okay, we better talk about him then. So I because I'm a believer in Devin White, as you know. I gave him a huge contract in our league. I just think that he went to a really good landing spot in Philly. The thing with him that's tough, I think it's a make or break it year for him. If the guy does not play well, we're talking about a Shaquille Leonard. Possibly he's no longer. Now, Shaquille Leonard had injury issues. Devin White's not having injury issues. He's having play issues. So I do think there's a difference there. But we could very well see Devin White being phased out of the NFL completely because linebackers can hit a cliff. And maybe that's him. I don't know yet. But I'm believing in the talent. I mean, this guy was drafted as a top 10 off ball linebacker. You don't see that every day. Now, mind you, Devin Bush was drafted a little bit late after that, and he's been nothing. So things happen. But I'm just believing in his talent. And I do think that he went to a good landing spot in Philadelphia. And I think he could do really, really well. And I'm banking on him kind of resurrecting his career.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just don't know. Like, once again, he's another one of the players. You talk about Quay Walker getting mixed reports. You get mixed things on Devin White. Like, it's just hard to fathom, though, because, like, during, like, the Super Bowl years with Tampa Bay, like, him and Levante David were just such fixtures, and Devin White was this all-world guy just going sideline to sideline just so quick. I don't know what happened all of a sudden because, like, then it's, especially this past year, he just kind of just went away. And, like you said, it's concerns with this play. I don't know if it's an effort thing or what is going on. I don't know if a change of scenery to Philly will help him. And obviously, Philadelphia, he's going to get plenty of opportunities to play. But I think just that being scared a little bit, just because if this doesn't work out in Philly, is this another guy like Shaq Leonard who's just going to get quickly phased out?
Could definitely be. There's no doubt about it. And I understand that for sure.
But I mean, he, like you mentioned, he still has, I mean, he is a former first round pick. He has talent. We've seen it. It just, for whatever reason, I don't know what it was last year to make him have such a bad year. And then Levante David had a great year, even at his age.
Now, what about Jordyn Brooks? Do you have him?
Jordyn, yes, I do have Jordyn Brooks.
Okay, I can hold off on that one then because I'm like, oh, I'm Jordyn Brooks.
No, I do have Jordyn Brooks.
I'm assuming you have TJ Edwards as well. I know you got Tremaine Edmunds here.
I don't have TJ Edwards.
Wow, that's shocking to me. So let's talk about Tremaine Edmunds. So you feel Edmunds obviously has a lot of potential. I mean, he had it with the Bills. He's been a steady guy. TJ Edwards, though, I mean, he's been a very highly productive player in IDP, and I want to say he was in your top 24 last time. But I think you moved Edmunds up. Do you just feel that Edmunds is going to be the guy who takes over, or you feel like TJ Edwards is just a filler piece? Is it kind of like an Alex Singleton type of guy? Like he's not actually like, maybe he's not as good as he is from a tackling standpoint from IDP. What made you have Tremaine Edmunds over TJ Edwards?
Yeah, I just think Tremaine Edmunds just has the higher ceiling, and he's still a young player, and we've seen his potential. Like when he was playing at Buffalo, they decided not to resign him, and goes to Chicago. He had a pretty good year, and I just think he can continue to build in that Chicago defense there. That they've got a lot of decent amount of talent on that side of the ball as well.
I think you're going to be getting some tomatoes thrown your way for this one because TJ Edwards, I mean, you look at him, I think I want to say he's been a top 15 linebacker over the past 2-3 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, he is a good linebacker. Just there was certain guys I liked more.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's head over to the last tier, Joe. Who do you got there?
All right. At number 20, I've got Christian Harris. At 21, I've got Blake Cashman. 22, Edgerrin Cooper. 23, Jordyn Brooks. And at 24, Bobby Wagner.
All right. At number 19, I got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. 20, Tremaine Edmunds. 21, Logan Wilson. 22, Jack Campbell. 23, Edgerrin Cooper. And 24, CJ Mosley. So one guy it seems like you and I are pretty different on is with Logan Wilson, a guy who I have in the final tier. You have up to tier 3 at number 12. I think he's just been okay. I mean, he's done okay for the Bengals. I think it's almost been him and Jermaine Pratt. Honestly, either guy has really taken over. I would give the edge towards Logan Wilson. But what made you put him up in tier 3?
Yeah, I think obviously we saw the Bengals, and invest in Logan Wilson, so that gave me some confidence there. And I think, I do see he does play alongside Jermaine Pratt, but I just like Wilson's. I think Wilson it couldn't take the next step and be that alpha linebacker for the Cincinnati Bengals. Guy that he's good in coverage and also plays the run pretty well as well.
Now, it is interesting. I've got, I'll talk about me first. So I've got CJ Mosley in the top 24. You don't. I considered very heavily as to whether or not I wanted to include him. Opted to do so, primarily because the guy has been very productive over his past however many years. I mean, I believe he's going to be 32 years old. Now, linebackers can play later in their career. I think the Jets could have an opt-out. I believe it's either next year or the year after. What happens with Mosley after that? So there can be some future question marks with the guy. But I just feel like he has a little bit more longevity. Because I did think about Bobby Wagner. I really did. Because Bobby Wagner, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, the guy has been an elite linebacker for over a decade. I just couldn't get myself to do it because it's how long can Wagner really play? He might be a one and done guy. He might play one more year in Washington and then that's it. So that's why I struggle. But what made you put Bobby Wagner here?
Yeah, I get that he might only have one more year and be done, but I feel like we've been saying that like the last few years, and the guy just keeps playing, and he's still playing at an elite level, scoring a bunch of points for IDP leagues as well, because he just is a tackling machine even at his age. I just felt like I couldn't not have him in the top 24 just because I get he might only play for a year, and this is Dynasty rankings, but the guy when he's on the field, he plays so well and scores a lot of points for Foye at the linebacker position. Just felt like I couldn't not have him in here.
No, I am sort of shocked that you have Blake Cashman in the top 24.
I figured that might surprise you.
Yeah, he definitely was in the top 24 before. You must really like his situation in Minnesota because you've been an Ivan Pace guy for quite some time. But I think he's going to have the green dot. I think Blake Cashman is an under the radar player for this year, but I don't know about past this year. I think he's more of a redraft play than I think he's a dynasty play, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he's still 28 years old, coming off of a really good year that he had in Houston, and you mentioned it. He's got a great opportunity coming over to the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, I was an Ivan Pace guy, but I think Cashman's going to come over and take that spot. I think Cashman will have the green dot over him, and kind of be that guy. But I still think there's a room for Ivan Pace, and obviously I had Pace in my top 24, so I had to take him out and slid Cashman in there.
I see that. Yeah, I see. I guess you must have liked my free agency signing because I signed him for 1 year, $1.5 million. So I feel like I got a bargain bin price for him.
Yeah, I mean you did, and we just talk about this Flores defense, in Minnesota, and just all the moving parts of it. And I feel like he gets guys into positions where they can succeed, and they play aggressive, and I think that bodes well for IDP players.
One last guy I want to talk about. You've got Jordyn Brooks at 23. I had him up at number 17. So decent difference between you and me, but not crazy. My big thing is, do you think he's going to be better or worse in Miami? You and I both think he's going to regress. I think I couldn't figure out was with Wilkins no longer there, is he going to have a ton of tackle opportunities or is he going to be overwhelmed? Because I just kind of wonder about how good that Miami Dolphins defense is going to be. Is he going to be a tackling machine, or I think he could just be engulfed? But I think that defense could be run a dragon by other teams.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. I definitely think he's in a worse situation with the Dolphins, and I think having Wilkins there would have helped, because just having a guy like that in the middle of your defense that's going to command double teams, I feel like clogs up,
Opens up lanes.
Open up lanes exactly for the linebackers coming downhill and filling and playing the run, where now does he get swallowed up, or is there an extra blocker in the offensive line that's going to come and take him out potentially, and maybe it's easier for him to kind of get lost in the sauce. But I think he's had some really good years with the Seahawks, but I just think it's to be seen with Miami, and no doubt that he's going. You mentioned it. I mean, Miami's lost so many pieces. I just don't see this defense being very good.
Well, I feel like the guy can't stay healthy really either. I mean, I think he's been dinged up. I mean, obviously towards ACL, but I just feel like he hasn't been the most reliable. Availability. The best ability is availability, is what you always say, Joe. Don't know if that guy's always been as available, but it'll be interesting to see how he does. Maybe he'll prove me wrong with Miami, but it's an interesting place where he went.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, at the same time, he's going to have opportunities there, and if he can stay healthy, he could have a good year. But he was a tough person for me to rank. I knew he obviously is good enough to be in the top 24. Just, it's hard for me to place him any higher than I have him.
So that does it for our updated top 24 linebacker rankings with tiers, in which we included rookies as well. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you haven't checked it out already, we did defensive tackles and edge rushers, and then we also did all the offensive positions. Coming up in our next episode, we're going to be going to the secondary and talking about the forgotten man, and that's the cornerbacks. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.